Senator Becker.
Thank you, colleagues. I rise to present SR 59 to establish November 14th as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. This is also a very inspiring story about students from my own district. But first about Ruby. At the tender age of 6, Ruby Bridges became a civil rights icon and pioneer. She became one of the first black children to integrate New Orleans' all-white public school system, typical of the American South at the time. Arriving for her first day in class on November 14th, 1960, Ruby and her mother were escorted by U.S. Marshals to provide safe passage to her all-white school. On that day, what Ruby initially believed to be a rambunctious crowd waiting to celebrate with her was in reality an angry white mob. The crowd taunted Ruby, hurled racial epithets, because a brave little girl represented an ideal that the mob found threatening. Ruby and her courage represented a societal shift towards greater racial equality under the law. Images of Ruby's first day, surrounded by police, encourage our nation to rethink school segregation and recognize the value in achieving racial equity. Norman Rockwell immortalized her shining moment in history with a painting in 1964 titled "The Problem We All Live With." Ruby is a constant reminder to all our children that we can be courageous, and like Ruby, we can defy and defeat injustice with dignity and grace. So her story inspired the 5th grade class at Martin Elementary School in South San Francisco, in my district, to engage with the local representatives to create a day to celebrate Ruby and her important contribution to the civil rights movement. They started at the local level. They first persuaded their school board, then the County Board of Education in San Mateo, and then the County Board of Supervisors to adopt November 14th as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. And I know they're watching today as the students, but they ask us to do the same. The students had an extraordinary opportunity to meet Ms. Bridges, whose birthday, by the way, was 2 days ago, and they ask our state to follow suit. Colleagues, Ruby Bridges is a role model to our youth, particularly young girls, that they have immense potential to become leaders. Ruby is a reminder for us in government to ensure that every child receives a quality education and a solid early childhood foundation for a safe passage to adulthood. Members, join me and my co-authors in recognizing Ruby Bridges' remarkable legacy by proclaiming November 14th, 2021, and each November 14th thereafter as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day in the state of California. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Becker. Discussion or debate? Senator Bradford.
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, just want to rise in strong support of this measure. As the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, I appreciate my colleague from the Bay recognizing the tremendous contributions that a 6-year-old made to our whole civil rights movement, to the integration of our public schools, and the courage that she had. And when you think about profiles in courage, we should know the name of Ruby Bridges. Often we think about courageous Rosa Parks, who refused to get a seat on the bus, but before all of that, there was a young 6-year-old who was brave enough to enter a hostile environment just for an education. And the most remarkable thing about this, she never missed a day of school. Despite the taunting and harassment, she showed up every day for school. So again, when we reflect on all the tremendous advances that this country has made, when we think about being able to live in the various neighborhoods that we are now able to live in, let's think about the little 6-year-old, and let's all try to embrace a little bit of Ruby Bridges in our heart each and every day. So I strongly ask for aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Bradford. Further discussion or debate? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Becker, would you like to close?
Comments from my colleague from Gardenia, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Becker. Members, this is eligible for unanimous roll call. Is there any objection to using a unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0. The measure passes.